Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiv Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamti Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So, continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 2, Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons, text number 11 onwards. Vishnuradvij Kriya Mulo Yagyo Dharma Maya Puman Devarshi Pitri Bhutanam Dharmasya Cha Parayanam. The basic principle of Brahminical culture is to satisfy Lord Vishnu. Okay. So the basic principle of Brahminical culture is to satisfy Lord Vishnu, the personification of sacrificial and ritualistic ceremonies. Lord Vishnu is the personified reservoir of all religious principles, and he is a shelter of all the demigods, the great pitas, and the people in general. When the Brahmins are killed, no one will exist to encourage the Kshatriyas to perform yagyas, and thus the demigods, not being appeased by yagya, will automatically die. So this is the modus operandi of all the demons. Actually, this is how they want to work. Just kill the Brahmins and the Brahminical activities, and that's it. Everything will come to a stop. Since Lord Vishnu is the central point of Brahminical culture, Hiranyakashipu's plan was to kill Vishnu. For if Vishnu were killed, naturally the Brahminical culture would also be lost. With Brahminical culture lost, yagya would no longer be performed, and for want of yagya, the regular distribution of rainfall would cease. Yagyat bhavati parjanya. Thus, there would be disturbances all over the world, and naturally the demigods would be defeated. From this verse, we get a clear indication of how human society is disturbed when the Vedic Aryan civilization is killed and the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies performed by the Brahmins are stopped. And unfortunately, this is what happened in Bharatvarsha. First Mughals came. Of course, they didn't rule all over India, but they did tons of damage, tons and tons of damage. And then the British came. But that legacy of British is still going on because they attacked the education system, the Gurukul system, the education system, and they put down our scriptures, called them mythology. And it is still continuing in the education system. Just refer to Vedas as mythology. Anything, Mahabharata, Ramayana, mythology. Krishna, Ram, mythology. And this is what, when we read again and again, this is what we're reading in the textbooks, mythology, mythology, mythology. So who would believe in it? They never say Jesus was mythology. Only Ram and Krishna, anything Hindu was mythology. And we very proudly say, this is actually my pet peeve. And in fact, Krishna's arrangement, when I was serving at ISKCON Delhi in museum, many schools, many teachers would come and bring the children, bring the students to see the shows. And before the show on Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, they would try to tell the students what the show is all about. In fact, they themselves don't know. And then, in Hindu mythology, and then if I was there, I would stop them right there in front of the students. I said, what do you mean by Hindu mythology? Where does this word come from? Comes from myth. So you think Krishna or Ram were a myth? Vedvyasi had nothing better to do than write some mythologies, fiction novels? Then they would understand, it makes sense. I said, don't just teach, don't just read the words in your books and textbooks and just tell the students without even putting your brain into it. And this is how they really killed the civilization, Vedic civilization. The knowledge, the rituals. Rituals are important. Of course, they are important. The spiritual practices, sadhana is important, and as well as the rituals. If we know the deeper meaning behind the rituals and how to perform them properly, we should. But this is what has happened, and then the word secularism was introduced. Secularism doesn't mean no religion. No religion means atheism. But this is what modern youngsters, this is what they think. Oh, we are secular. They think that being atheist is secular, or it's very modern. If we are atheists, we don't believe in anything. They believe in all, eat, drink, and be merry. Okay, you want to do that. But don't put down people who are trying to follow the Brahminical culture, the spiritual culture of the Vedic civilization. Of course, everything in the society, everything goes in a swing. So swing means it comes to a lower level and then it goes to the upper level. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, around 500 years ago, he came to establish properly all the full philosophy. And then 6 Goswamis came, and then different acharyas came. And then came Srila Prabhupada. We all say, oh, English people came and they really destroyed. Yes, they did destroy. But Prabhupada, it's all, we can say it's all arranged by Krishna. That Prabhupada was sent at that time and the British rule was there and India was fighting for its freedom. And Prabhupada studied under British education system. And then his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he gave him this instruction, very first meeting, that you look like a young educated man. Go to the Western world to preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in English language. Because Prabhupada was trained in that English language. And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj himself, on the kind of English he would write, even the British would have to consult dictionary to read his English. So the point was, because English language is spoken all over the world. It's an international language. And when Prabhupada came and he preached in English, he gave his books in English. So it means they were accepted very readily all over the world. And especially his purports, very easy to understand, and so much of conviction Prabhupada has written with, that people are following. They are reading and becoming devotees. Hare Krishna, Lakshmi Mataji, you have to mute yourself. Oh, Dheeraj Prabhu. So Prabhupada, and through his books, he's trying to revive, and of course through his followers, trying to revive that lost Vedic culture. It will take time, but Prabhupada did say that this movement will go down in the future. This movement will go down in the history that it saved the world in its darkest hour. So I don't know what is going to happen. Prabhupada could have seen the future and he wrote that. But this is the moment that is saving the culture. Why? Through the knowledge. That's why knowledge is very, very important. It's not just based on some whims and fancies or just somebody saying, oh, I think this way or I think that way. These days, of course, we can say everything happens by Krishna's plan. And depending upon the situation, and in India also, so many things are happening. But when you hear them speak on different topics, I'm not talking about political topics, but the religious topics, and you feel sorry for them. They have no idea what they're talking about. But the problem is, whoever has a strongest voice or more power behind him, and he rules, or his point is taken very well, instead of the real logic or the real scriptural point of view. But regardless, we don't want to go that way. We want to stick to the right education, right knowledge of the scriptures, so that because until there is a proper foundation, the other things cannot stay for long. So Prabhupada's mercy, he has given us everything in his books, everything that we need to preach, to lead our life according to the instructions, to do the deity worship, to take care of whatever we want to. Everything is there. But yes, it is disheartening when we read about how the Brahminical culture was completely lost. It was wiped out to a very large degree. And this is the program of Hiranyakashipu also. Just kill the Brahmins and kill the culture. That's it. And then everything will be demoniac. It will be very conducive for the demoniac civilization. So Prabhupada says, because of the increment in demoniac population, people have lost Brahminical culture. Nor is there a Kshatriya government. Instead, the government is a democracy in which any Shudra can be voted into taking up the governmental reins and capture the power to rule. Because of the poisonous effects of Kali Yuga, the Shastra says, Dasyu Prayeshu Rajasu. The government will adopt the policies of Dasyu, so plunderers. Thus, there will be no instructions from the Brahmins, and even if there are Brahminical instructions, there will be no Kshatriya rulers who can follow them. Aside from Satyuga, even formerly in the days when demons were flourishing, Hiranyakashipu planned to destroy the Brahminical culture and the Kshatriya government and thus create chaos all over the world. Although in Satyuga, this plan was very difficult to execute. In Kali Yuga, which was full of Shudras and demons, the Brahminical culture is lost and can be revived only by the chanting of the Maha Mantra. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement or the Hare Krishna movement has been inaugurated to revive Brahminical culture very easily so that people may become happy and peaceful in this life and prepare for elevation in the next. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya quotes this verse from Brahmanda Puran. Vipra yagyadi moolam tu hareriti ashram matam harerevahi sarvasya moolam samyam mato nripa. O king, the demons think that Hari, Lord Vishnu, exists because of the Brahmins and Yagya. But factually, Hari is the cause of everything, including the Brahmins and the Yagyas. Therefore, through the popularizing of Hari Kirtan or the Sankirtan movement, the Brahminical culture and Kshatriya government will automatically come back and people will be extremely happy. So that'll be a wonderful time. And in fact, there's so many predictions that there's one prediction I've heard of. Probably it's a Nostradamus prediction that the world will be ruled by shaved heads, people with shaved heads. He doesn't say spiritual shaved head people of ISKCON or whatever, but he just said something like that. It is said. But anyway, we don't care for ruling over any world, but the only thing is Krishna's name should be chanted all over the world. Means the devotees should be there all over the world. And this is also a prediction by Mahaprabhu that my name will be sung in every village, town and village of the world. So we just have to put in our effort and just take it to wherever we can. Because only Hari Kirtan, Sankirtan. Sankirtan is not different from Krishna. Harinam is not different from Krishna. So that's what we have to do. Just take the Lord everywhere we can. Yatra yatra dvija gavo veda varnashram kriya tam tam janpadam yata sandipayat vrishchata. Immediately go wherever there is good protection for the cows and the Brahmins and wherever the Vedas are studied in terms of the Varnashram principles. Set fire to those places and cut from the roots the trees there, which are the source of life. This is really, and that's why Hiranyakashipu is the biggest terrorist or demon in the history. And this is what they do. The picture of a proper human civilization is indirectly described here. In a perfect human civilization, there must be a class of men fully trained as perfect Brahmins. Similarly, there must be Kshatriyas to rule the country very nicely according to the injunctions of the Shastras. And there must be Vaishyas who can protect the cows. The word Gava indicates that the cows should be given protection. Because the Vedic civilization is lost, cows are not protected, but instead indiscriminately killed in slaughterhouses. Such are the acts of demons. Therefore, this is a demoniac civilization. The Varnashram Dharma mentioned here is essential for human civilization. Unless there is a Brahman to guide, a Kshatriya to rule perfectly, and a perfect Vaishya to produce food and protect the cows, how will people live peacefully? Not by running on different motor cars and by doing all of the nonsense things. It is impossible. Another point is that trees also should be given protection. During its lifetime, a tree should not be cut for industrial enterprises. In Kali Yuga, trees are indiscriminately and unnecessarily cut for industry. In particular, for paper mills and manufacture a profuse quantity of paper for the publication of demoniac propaganda. Nonsensical literature, huge quantities of newspapers and many other paper products. This is a sign of demoniac civilization. So nonsensical literature, so much of literature is there out there in the market. Doesn't even make sense. And so much of paper is wasted in that. And huge quantities of newspapers. Every city has 10, or bigger cities have 10, 12 newspapers coming out every day. And same news. It's all about money, advertisements or this or that. It's all about money. And along with newspaper come now these days, now it's a bigger fashion of sending all this junk mail along with the newspapers. So much of paper is wasted every day. I mean, so many trees are cut unnecessarily. And this is a purpose. This is a sign of demoniac civilization. The cutting of trees is prohibited unless necessary for the service of Lord Vishnu. Yagyarthat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhana. Work done as a sacrifice for Lord Vishnu must be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. But if the paper mills stop producing paper, one may argue, how can our ISKCON literature be published? The answer is that the paper mills should manufacture paper only for the publication for ISKCON literature, because ISKCON literature is published for the service of Lord Vishnu. This literature clarifies our relationship with the Lord Vishnu, and therefore the publication of ISKCON literature is performance of yajna. Yagyarthat karmano anyatra. Yajna must be performed as indicated by the superior authorities. The cutting of trees simply to manufacture paper for the publication of unwanted literature is the greatest sinful act. And it is actually. You're cutting down trees, the valuable trees to make paper for what? Newspapers one day, and that not even one day, one just reads this for half an hour or so and then throws it away. That's it, done. And if somebody buys Bhagavad Gita from ISKCON, he'll not throw it away, he'll just keep it for the rest of his life. So there is no comparison between ISKCON literature and all this rubbish newspapers. Iti te bhartri nirdesham adaya shirsandrita tatha prajanam kadanam vidudhu kadana priya. Thus the demons, being fond of disastrous activities, took Hiranyakashipu's instructions on their heads with great respect and offered him obeisances. According to his directions, they engage in envious activities directed against all living beings. So this is what demons do. They just want to engage in envious activities. They cannot do anything beneficial for the society, for the civilization. No. The followers of demoniac principles, as described here, are thoroughly envious of the general populace. In the present day, scientific advancement exemplifies such envy. The discovery of nuclear energy has been disastrous to people in general because demons all over the world are manufacturing nuclear weapons. The word Kadanapriya is very significant in this regard. The demoniac persons who want to kill the Vedic culture are extremely envious of the feeble citizens. And they act in such a way that ultimately the discoveries will be inauspicious for everyone. Jagato Ahita. The 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita fully explains how the demons engage in sinful activities for the destruction of the populace. And this is what the scientists, so-called scientists, and we think they're very nice people, they have big PhDs and so much of research work they're doing. But ultimately, it's all demoniac because they don't give credit to the Lord. They don't work for the satisfaction of the Lord. And we think they're working for our benefit. It's not actually. Puragrama Vrajodyan Kshetra Rama Shrama Karan Keta Kharavatta Goshanscha Dadahu Patanani Cha. The demons set fire to the cities, villages, pasturing grounds, cow pens, gardens, agricultural fields, and natural forests. They burned the hermitages of the saintly persons, the important mines that produce valuable metals, the residential quarters of the agriculturists, the mountain villages and the villages of the cow protectors, the cowherd men. They also burned the government capitals. They were very, very powerful. The word Udyan refers to places where trees are especially grown to produce fruits and flowers, which are most important for human civilization. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toya. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Fruits and flowers are very much pleasing to the Lord. If one wants to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can simply offer fruits and flowers, and the Lord will be pleased to accept them. Our only duty is to please the Supreme Godhead, Sansiddhir Haritoshna. Whatever we do and whatever our occupation, our main purpose should be to please the Supreme Lord. All the paraphernalia mentioned in this verse is especially meant for the satisfaction of the Lord, not the satisfaction of one's senses. The government, indeed the entire society, should be structured in such a way that everyone can be trained to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But unfortunately, especially in this age, Natavidu Swargatam Hi Vishnu, people do not know that the highest goal of human life is to please Lord Vishnu. On the contrary, like demons, they simply plan to kill Vishnu and be happy by sense gratification. And thing is, demoniac mentality also, they don't understand. By killing this Vedic culture means Brahmins, cows, and then this natural living, they cannot be happy themselves. But this is what demonic mentality is, to destroy everything, to kill, and then we think we can control over everything and enjoy. Real happiness is not in controlling. Real happiness is in service. We cannot imitate the Supreme Lord. And in fact, Supreme Lord himself, Krishna himself, he doesn't control anybody. His energies keep on doing, but he himself, he wants to enjoy with his devotees. Not by controlling them, by serving them, by taking care of them. But we like to control. So much of plans everybody is making. So I can control this. I can have this much. It means that much I'm going to control. I can't even control my own body. And I think I can control whatever is in my possession. Every country's head of the state, they think, oh, I can have this weapons or those weapons, and by changing this policy or that policy, I can control. Mood should be of service. Somehow or other, I've been given this position to take care of the citizens, to serve them. No, the point is, I want to control them. Kechit khanitrair vividhu setu prakar gopura ajivyanshchit chudur vrikshan kechit parshuna shud panaya pradayam sharnaye ke rajanam jolitol mukha. Some of the demons took digging instruments and broke down the bridges, the protective walls, and the gates, gopuras of the cities. Some took axes and began cutting the important trees that produce mango, jackfruit, and other sources of food. Some of the demons took firebrands and set fire to the residential quarters of the citizens. And this they were doing all over the earth, not just one city or in one country. The cutting of trees is generally prohibited, in particular trees that produce nice fruit for the maintenance of human society should not be cut. In different countries, there are different types of fruit trees. In India, the mango and the jackfruit trees are prominent, and in other places, there are mango trees, jackfruit trees, coconut trees, and berry trees. Any tree that produces nice fruit for the maintenance of the people should not be cut at all. This is a Shastric injunction. And in fact, that is what we should be planting all over. We should be planting mango trees or jackfruit or the berry trees or other nice fruit-giving trees. Other kinds of trees, they are just there for show. It doesn't help anyway. But if there are some fruit trees, then if somebody is hungry, he can pluck a fruit and eat, and that's it. He will be happy. Evam viprakrite loke datendranu chararmuhu divam deva parityajya bhuvi cherura lakshita. Thus disturbed again and again by the unnatural occurrences caused by the followers of Hiranyakashipu, all the people had to cease the activities of Vedic culture. Not receiving the results of yajna, the demigods also became disturbed. They left their residential quarters in the heavenly planets and, unobserved by the demons, began wandering on the planet Earth to see the disasters. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, performance of yajna brings reciprocal good fortune for both the human beings and the demigods. When the performances of yajna were stopped by the disturbances of the demons, the demigods were naturally bereft of the results of yajna and hampered in executing their respective duties. So they were not getting their share because people were not performing yajnas. So the demigods were also disturbed, and so they came down. Therefore, they came down to planet Earth to see how people had become disturbed and to consider what to do. Hiranyakashipur bhratu samparetasya dukhita kritva kato dukadini bhratri putra nasantvayat. After performing the ritualistic observances for the death of his brother Hiranyakashipu, being extremely unhappy, tried to pacify his nephews. So his nephews means Hiranyaksha's sons. Shakunim Shambaram Drishtim Bhuta Santapanam Vrikam Kalanabham Mahanabham Harishma Ashru Mathotkacham Tanumataram Rushabhanum Ritim Cha Jananim Gira Shila Lakshanaya Desha Kalagya Idam Aha Janeshwara. O King means Narad Muni is speaking to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry, but since he was a great politician, he knew how to act according to the time and situation. With sweet words, he began pacifying his nephews, whose names were Shakuni, Shambar, Drishti, Bhuta Santapana, Vrik, Kalanabha, Mahanabha, Harishmashru, and Utkach. He also consoled his mother, his sister-in-law. His sister means Hiranyaksha's wife, was Rushabhanu, as well as his own mother, Diti. He spoke to them as follows. Now, this is again, he is a demon Hiranyakashipu is a big demon, not just a little bitty demon. Huge, I mean, huge in the sense of the kind of qualities and kind of power and strength he had. And what does Shukdev Goswami say? Shri Hiranyakashipu Ruvacha. He uses the word Shri. He used Shri for Vritrasura. But Vritrasura, although he was a huge demon, but he only had one fight with the demigods. But here, Hiranyakashipu, we'll read further, he will terrorize the whole universe. And so also, he had already started by killing and Brahmins and destroying everything. But Shukdev Goswami used the word Shri for him, giving him full respect, and we'll read the kind of philosophy he speaks. Amazing. Everything was correct except he didn't give credit to Lord Vishnu. He didn't recognize the position of Lord Vishnu. That's all. Otherwise, everything he said was correct. Shri Hiranyakashipu Ruvacha Ambamba me he vadhu putra viram marhat shochitum Ripora Mukesh Laghya Shruram Vad Ipsita. Hiranyakashipu said, "My dear mother, sister-in-law, and nephews, you should not lament for the death of the great hero, for a hero's death in front of his enemy is glorious and desirable. Bhutanam ihe samvasah prapayam iv suvrite deve nekatra nitanam unnitanam swakarmabhi." My dear mother, in a restaurant or a place for drinking cold water, many travelers are brought together. And after drinking water, they continue to their respective destinations. Similarly, living entities join together in a family, and later, as a result of their own actions, they are led apart to their destinations. It's a wonderful philosophy. He's saying we all just come together like people come together in a restaurant to drink cold water or have some food, and then they just keep going to their own places. So similarly, we meet together as a family, have fun and eat and drink, and then we again get separated. The bewildered soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of the activities, which are in actuality carried out by nature. All living entities act exactly according to the directions of Prakriti, of material nature, because in the material world we are fully under a higher control. All the living entities in this material world have come here only because they wanted to be equal to Krishna in enjoyment, and have thus been sent here to be conditioned by material nature in different degrees. In the material world, a so-called family is a combination of several persons in one home to fulfill the terms of their imprisonment. A so-called family is a combination of several persons in one home to fulfill the terms of their imprisonment. Wow. So imprisonment, well, if you look at philosophically, yes, imprisonment is given to the criminals, the sinful people, and they're put in the prison, so they stay together in a cell for a certain time, and then they keep going. As criminal prisoners scatter as soon as their terms are over and they are released, all of us who have temporarily assembled as family members will continue to our respective destinations. Another example given is that family members are like straws carried together by the waves of a river. Sometimes such straws mix together in whirlpools and later dispersed again by the same waves. They float alone in the water. But because we get attached to the family members, when we separate, it just gives pain to the heart. There's a nice story about Lord Buddha. Once a lady came to Lord Buddha. Buddha was visiting that village, and the lady came crying to Buddha. She had a son, little son, who died. And she was very much attached. Obviously, every mother gets attached to the babies. And she was crying and she was lamenting. And she came to Buddha and she said, well, I've heard you're a very realized soul, very big saint. So can you revive my son? Buddha looked at the lady and he thought for a while and he said, yes, I can revive him. I can bring him back. But for that, you have to go to a village next door and get me some sesame seeds still from somebody's house. She said, and he said, from those sesame seeds, I can revive this boy. So the lady thought, oh, this is very easy. I mean, what's a big deal? But Buddha said, there's a condition. When you go asking for sesame seeds, you have to get the sesame seeds from the house where no death has taken place in the last whatever time, maybe 1 year or so. And no, not in that house means nobody in the relatives either. They shouldn't have had any death that they had mourned over or they had cried over within last maybe 1 year. So she said, okay, that should be easy. So she went. And she went to first house. She asked for some sesame seeds, and the lady came out, gave her. But then this lady asked, has there been any death in the family? Well, yeah, my so-and-so died a few months back. The lady said, okay, I cannot take from your house. And then she went to next. Every household. And this is the rule of, this is the law of life, actually. And then she understood that this is part of life. So these straws we mix together and then they get separated and they mix with some other straws. And so flow of river is like the time flows and it goes on and on and on and on. So Prabhupada further says, although Hiranyakashipu was a demon, he had Vedic knowledge and understanding. Thus, advice given to his family members, his sister-in-law, mother, and nephews was quite sound. The demons are considered highly elevated in knowledge, but because they do not use their good intelligence for the service of the Lord, they're called demons. The demigods, however, act very intelligently to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam as follows. O best among the twice borns, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging his prescribed duties, dharma, according to caste divisions and orders of life, is to please the Lord Hari. To become a demigod or to become godly, whatever one's occupation, one must satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the demons, they have the knowledge, understanding, everything, but they just want to take out Lord and his service. That's the problem. Nitya Atma Vyaya Shuddha Sarvaga Sarvavitpara Dhatteya Savatmano Lingam Mayaya Visrijan Guna. The spirit soul, the living entity, has no death, for he is eternal and inexhaustible. Being free from material contamination, he can go anywhere in the material or spiritual worlds. He is fully aware and completely different from the material body. But because of being misled by misuse of his slight independence, he is obliged to accept subtle and gross bodies created by the material energy, and thus be subjected to so-called material happiness and distress. Therefore, no one should lament for the passing of the spirit soul from the body. See, same instructions Krishna gave to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Same instructions. Hiranyakashipu very intelligently described the position of the soul. The soul is never the body, but is always completely different from the body. At least Hiranyakashipu was more intelligent than today's scientists. They don't even believe in soul. Being eternal and inexhaustible, the soul has no depth. But when the same pure soul desires to enjoy the material world independently, he is placed under the conditions of material nature and must therefore accept a certain type of body and suffer the pains and pleasures thereof. This is also described by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Karanam guna sangavasya sadasad yoni janmasu. The living entity is born in different families or species of life because of being infected by the modes of material nature. When conditioned by material nature, the living entity must accept a certain type of body which is offered by nature under the direction of the Lord. So based on our karma and our desires, we just get different kind of body. And this is what Hiranyakashipu says, because of being misled by misuse of his slight independence. So he should think himself that he has misused his independence. So use it properly. But no, demons don't think that the instructions is for them, it's for everybody else. So Prabhupada further says, the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. The body is just like a machine, and according to the living entity's karma, he is offered a particular type of machine to move here and there under the control of material nature. This continues until he surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Until he surrenders, the conditioned soul is carried from life to life by the arrangement of material nature. So this is the purpose actually. Sansiddhir Haritoshnam, but not for the demons. Not at all for the demons. Yathambasa prachalata tarvo api chalayo chakshusha brahmya manena drishyate chalati vibhu. Because of the movements of water, the trees on the bank of a river, when reflected on the water, seem to move. Similarly, when the eyes move because of some mental derangement, the land appears to move also. Sometimes because of mental derangement, the land appears to be moving. Or like when we get drunk, or when the mind is not in control, when we walk, we think the land is moving, but land is not moving. A drunkard, for example, or a person with heart disease sometimes feels that the land is moving. Similarly, the reflections of trees in a flowing river also appear to move. These are the actions of Maya. Actually, the living entity does not move. Living entity does not take birth or accept death, but because of the transient, subtle and gross bodies, the living entity appears to move from one place to another or be dead and gone forever. As a great Bengali Vaishnava poet Jagadanand Pandit has said, in his book Prem Vivarta, when a living entity is conditioned by material nature, he is exactly like a person haunted by a ghost. One should therefore understand the fixed position of the spirit soul and how he is carried away by the waves of material nature to different bodies and different situations under lamentation and hankering. One achieves the success of life when he understands the constitutional position of his self and is undisturbed by the conditions created by material nature. So that can only happen when we get out of the body concept of life. When we establish real concept, which is a soul, that I'm spirit soul. I am part and parcel of Krishna. I'm a servant of Krishna and engage in the service of Krishna. Then one achieves the success. Otherwise, if we keep on thinking I'm this body and I keep on acting on the body level, having friends and enemies and doing all sorts of nonsense, and just like here, it is a derangement, mental derangement. And that is what it is. So wonderful instructions by Hiranyakashipu. And he continues. There are many, many instructions go on. So anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna. Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I was just thinking about that Srila Prabhupada's instruction on the environment, like cutting trees and all. So knowingly or unknowingly, we are also becoming a part of all these sinful activities, because I feel like we are also misusing it by not contributing nicely and not protecting the mother nature. So, like, what could be the way? Because now, if we preach to others and if we are totally dependent on others, that the kind of like all the manufacturer who are making all these products like polybags and then papers and all. So, suppose like we are saying that okay, they are doing is they are creating all this and then they are polluting the mother nature. But we as a devotee, because we are into Krishna consciousness, so it is considered as that devotees are having highest of highest intelligence. So what should be our take on our steps into like such like help to help the mother nature, like because everything is belongs to Krishna's property only. So to take care of this nature, to take care of everything is our responsibility. So like besides preaching, besides doing our regular bhakti activities, because if we are going to the outside, if we are stepping out, we are using all the artificial stuff like buying anything using poly bags, and then we are also reading papers we are using. So it is going is as if like a blame game. We are blaming the other party, and then we are saying that we can't help on that. So should we not um, start some movement like this also, wherein we can protect the mother nature, or what should be our actually duty on this?
One thing is we can minimize this use of all these different products and try to recycle as much as we can. And at the same time, we can of course try to plant some trees. We should actually plant. Why not? Others are not doing, that's fine. It's up to their consciousness. But we have to see everything in relationship with Krishna. So the tree planting should also be part of our life, and protection of the trees. And if nothing else, at least plant tulsi, lots of tulsi. She can purify the environment, not just physically by giving out ozone, but because she's a pure devotee, and anybody and everybody can get benefited just by taking darshan of Tulsi Maharaj. And if possible, if we have land, just plant some trees, nice fruit trees, whatever we can.
Yes, Prabhuji. So I was just like talking about the education part. I mean to say, in the temple, we have an education system of teaching everything, our scriptures and all. And besides some practical projects wherein like we can engage everyone directly into such mindful projects wherein we can contribute directly to the Mother Earth, because we are more capable, I feel like, doing and inventing something like this.
Yeah. And there is a devotee, I'm forgetting his name. When I was there, he used to come to the class. And he had, in his job, he had developed this, how to compost things and make a fertilizer out of it. Everyday things that he said, if we throw away, we can compost them. And you all can get instructions from him how to do that. So that will help Mother Nature. And when others sees us doing these things, they will also get attracted. But at the same time, we have to understand, we have to become Krishna conscious.
That is definitely, unless if we not incorporate this Krishna consciousness, then definitely it is again not going to be fruitful.
Yeah, the thing is, many times people get distracted. The focus is Krishna consciousness, nothing else.
Yes. Yeah, because if I look little more deep, then I realized that one side we are trying to minimize our karmic balance. On the other hand, we are also contributing by misusing all these properties, Krishna's properties, in a wrong way. So that way, on that from that side, we are again drawing more bad karmic reactions. So how can we make it like lesser or balance at least?
Yeah, so we have to consciously try to minimize the burden on Mother Nature, but at the same time, we have to become devotees. Our ultimate goal is to become devotees.
Thank you so
Is
much.
that okay?
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mother. Thank you. So I guess we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Lakshmi.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.